Okay, so there was this date that my friend and I got into an Uber, right? And she and I are talking, and our Uber driver is like, "Are you guys African?" And we're like, "Yes, we're African. I'm from Nigeria. She's from Zambia." He's like, "Oh my God, no way! I'm from Sudan." We're like, "Hey!" So we're just talking, right? And I don't know how it comes up, but somehow we started talking about just like dating and dating outside of your race or outside of your culture. My friend is saying that she generally, she's open to all cultures, all races, stuff like that, but she would prefer somebody who is black just because she feels like there would be, a lot of things that would be easier culturally, a lot of shared experiences, stuff like that, right? And our Uber driver was like, "Oh my God, no, but like you could be missing out, stuff like that, right?" And then she looks at him and she said, "Listen, my own is even good. Tessie is even worse here." And she's like, Tessie prefers somebody who is even Nigerian, right? And he's like, "Oh my God, no, but why?" And we're like, "Listen, like honestly, like we are open to all races, all cultures, stuff like that." But I gave the same reason. I was just like, yeah, I think it would just be easier if we have the same cultures. And then he starts talking, right? He's like, honestly, that he understands, but he's like, please, just don't close yourself off to other cultures. And I think it's a good thing that you ladies are not closing yourself off, but just like, he starts talking about basically about Africa and what life is like for us as Africans, right? And as African women. So he says, honestly, that he even thinks like it might be better for us if we even marry men who are not African, because he knows that the way African men are, he's like, and this is him speaking, he's like, honestly, the way we are not taught to respect women. Like we African men, we are not taught to respect women at all. And he starts talking about all these things, and honestly, a lot of the things he's talking about I already know, like I already knew. But sometimes when you talk about these things, there can be so much gaslighting, and you're like, I don't understand, who are you trying to lie to? Anyway, one of the things he mentions is he talks about how, like, okay, for you girls now as women, right, it's unfortunate, but in a lot of African homes, like even when there are two parents, most of the work of raising the children ends up being on you. He was like 85% of the work ends up being on you as a woman, even if you have a job, even if there are two parents, right? So like honestly, there's a lot that can very easily be hard for you. And then he goes on by saying that it is for those reasons that he says like it's just good to keep an open mind, because he knows that some things might be easier for you if you marry outside as opposed to like saying that you want to die on the line with African men, which of course there's nothing wrong with African men. We love them so much. But yeah, he just starts going on and on about some of these things, and he's talking about how like honestly, the least you can do for yourself is really just get you somebody that does love you and wants to make your life easier, because he has seen African women experience a world of suffering at the hands of their partners, at the hands of African men. I don't know, like there was a lot that we talked about, but man, that whole conversation really shook me. Like I remember calling my mom the next day and we had a whole conversation. I was just ranting and going on and on. Now why is it like this? Why does it seem like in so many ways misogyny is so deeply embedded in our culture? Like why most women so far? Like why? Like what did we do to, like why? And she was just like, my dear, she's like, it's okay, it's as well, go do it. And I'm just like, like I don't. But yeah, no, it was just very jarring actually having, just like hearing him say some of the things he said, that he sees what our culture does to women a lot of times, and it is not good, and it is not fair, and it's not right, and it sucks. But he doesn't have a solution other than maybe try and marry outside because life might be easier for you, which just sucks to think of. But in some ways, I don't feel like he's wrong. But anyway, one of the other things we talked about was the relationship that African moms have with their daughters versus with their sons, African dads as well, with their sons versus with their daughters. And I remember him saying to us how African moms generally baby their sons, right, and are super hard on their daughters. And when that comes up, my friend and I literally like, yes, oh my God, because that's been our experience, right? That's been the experience of a lot of people. Not criticizing, like this is not me providing critique, it's just kind of what it was, right? Whereas on the flip side, for me, I was babied by my father, and my mom was more strict on me, that sort of thing. And like he's just like, yeah, that like for whatever reason, it's just a part of our culture so far. Now these are some parts of our cultures that people are letting go of and like refining and making better as time goes on, but they are still there. And he was just basically like, yeah, don't tight your eye on like saying you must end up with an African man because life might be a little bit harder for you. Now somebody who adores African men. I am optimistic, obviously, and I do know that like things have changed and are changing, and not all men are the way the previous generation of men were. Even then, there are always exceptions, there are always outliers, and I'm thankful that things are changing. Obviously, marriages now are not what they used to be. More marriages are becoming partnerships now, as opposed to slavery on both ends, right? Basically, I do know that, you know, the chokehold patriarchy and misogyny has had us all in for a long time. It's getting looser and looser as more men break away from it. So no, not all men of our generation are like that, and I thank God for that, right? I remember watching this video on Instagram one time. It was some random interview that I think a female pastor was doing, some show, something like that anyway. And she was talking about how in her culture, there's a saying that they have, that in the household, the woman holds the sharp end of the knife, right? And the thing she said, sis was like, and God forbid, that's not her portion, you know? Because why has it been that way for so long? That just women must carry the brunt of the suffering in the home, in the relation. Like, why must it be that way? God did not die for me to still be living a life of suffering, and I reject it for anybody. You know, you meet some men and you hear them say, everybody is so like fickle nowadays. Nobody's loyal anymore. Back in the day, my parents, people used to divorce. My parents have been married for like 55 years, stuff like that. And you now look at said parents and you see the amount of misery and suffering their mother has endured, and then ask someone to come and drag somebody else's daughter and put her through that same level of suffering. You like food. Food is your love language, but you cannot cook. And you cannot eat food that's in the freezer because you're a man. You need fresh food every week. Hey God, I'm just like, there's a world of suffering, and just like, I don't know why, but like when a lot of things have happened in homes, in African homes, it's always put on the woman to be the one who suffers, to be the one who endures, instead of her, instead of us encouraging her to be like, no, this is not okay and it has to go. We tell her, oh no, it's okay, just pray, endure this and that. No, you are a woman, and I don't like it, God forbid. And I don't like that has been a part of our culture for so long, is that the woman holds the sharp end of the knife. I don't like it. It's ending note. And I'm thankful, because when I hear people say these things like, oh, people are divorcing nowadays, not used to divorce before, I'm like, yeah, because women are less willing to take rubbish. And this is not me disrespecting the women who have experienced that, not in any way, shape, or form. That's a whole nother conversation, and I know that there are so many layers to that. So many women cannot leave some abusive situations because they don't have the financial support, the emotional, the societal support they need, like, to be able, like, this is not me passing judgment, believe you me. I understand how deep abuse can run sometimes, and the layers that feed into that, even if it's not physical abuse, emotional, mental, whatever. But anyway, that's a different conversation. I'm speaking more to the people who fault women for saying, you know what, I can and will leave. I'm thankful that things are changing and that there is more room and more support for women to be women that can say they have desire, that they want good things for themselves, like they want better. I was literally rattled for days after that, because again, this is the thing, is when, like, say on Twitter, for example, when these conversations come up, a lot of men deny it. Oh no, it's not this, it's not that, like, it's this, like, oh, it's a lot of gaslighting. But like, the truth of the matter is that men know. They know that their mothers suffered. They know that they would not want to be put through what their mother. They know how much they hated seeing their mom go through some of the suffering and struggle that she did. But at the same time, one, there's a severe lack of empathy for the suffering and pain of women. But secondly, there's no amount of sympathy that they had for their, for the women around them that is so suffering, that will make them deprive themselves of the privilege of, marrying a wife who will do all these things for you and receive the short end of the stick, hold the sharp edge of a knife. I've said this in a previous video before. This quote I heard from Eniola Holmes. You have no incentive to change a system that suits you so nicely. Like, yeah, it was hard and it sucked seeing all these women go through this stuff, but you're a man. This society provides you with certain privileges on account of patriarchy, on account of misogyny. So those benefits are available to you, Yeah, it's the same way, I'm not gonna lie, like when you see some people who are not people of color talking about how, oh no, there's no racism. They know, Jari, a lot of them know that racism is real, it is a problem. They just won't inconvenience themselves to stop it because it does not directly impacts them. Furthermore, they benefit from white supremacy, right? Again, this is not everybody, but there are white people who just, they know it's there, they know it's a problem, but they won't admit it to themselves or to you because they can't ignore it and their life will be fine. Enjoyable even, because society is built for them. Anyway, It was a very interesting conversation that we had with that Uber driver, and I really hope things get better for us, for African men and women as a whole. It's just the layers and layers of problems, you know, that are rooted in patriarchy and misogyny and anti-blackness and colorism, right? But we just accept these things as, oh, it's our culture. Oh, it's part of our culture. It's who we are. Like, I don't like it. But anyway, I'm gonna stop there with this video for today. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe, and I will see you next week as usual.